Hello everyone, how are you guys doing today? So, as many of you should know by now, there's a president in Burkina Faso right now by the name of Ibrahim Traore. And he is starting and driving a really big movement all over Africa right now, as well as a revolution along with that. As yet you've been tracking, he is driving away the French and also America from not just Burkina Faso, but all of West Africa. And, Central African nations, North African nations, East African nations, and Southern African nations are soon to follow. Okay? Because this man is making a big impact right now, fighting against neo-colonialism. Because, as we all should know, France and a lot of Africa's former colonizers haven't really left Africa. Okay? They celebrate and do all these Independence Days all over Africa. Nigerian Independence Day, Ghana Independence Day, like Liberia Independence Day, all those Independence Day, all those Independence Days that don't mean shit and aren't shit. Because like I said, a lot of Africa's former colonizers haven't left the continent. The French and all these European nations are there, still taking advantage of that resources in Africa and exploiting off of African people. And now, for the longest time, Africa has new colonizers and new oppressors. Can you guess who they are? They are Russia and China. Okay? And China is especially doing really negative, detrimental impacts in Africa right now, as they're supposedly investing in the continent, but really and truly they're the new colonizers, China and Russia. But going back to the main point, Ibrahim Traore is fighting back against French neo-colonialism. I believe he has called for French no longer being the official language in Burkina Faso. And I also believe other West African nations that were also French colonies, where French today is the predominant language. I also believe that they're also starting to crack down on that as well and go back to speaking their native tongues, as they should. But France is not happy about that right now. I forgot what the fucking name of the French president is, and I don't care to know, but the president of France, has been calling African people, especially the people of Mali and Burkina Faso, a whole bunch of racist, derogatory slurs. And America is also not happy with that either. Okay? Now, America has never been involved with... Okay, I shouldn't say never, because that's an understatement. America wasn't a part of, initially, the scramble for Africa, okay? It was mostly these European countries, okay, that colonized Africa and have done the damage that they have done right now, that they're still doing in Africa, okay? Ever since the scramble for Africa, during the late 1800s, where, they've committed so much genocides and atrocities there. Of course, you all know about, how the Belgians committed genocide in the fucking Congo and killed off millions of Congolese because they did not meet their demand for rubber. They would chop off their hands and, kill them off. And then, of course, the Germans, when they colonized Namibia and parts of South Africa, close to the Namibia-South Africa border, Eswatini, they committed genocide there as well against the Herero and Namakwa people. But, America, as you also know, loves to meddle with other nations' business and affairs. Like, America just doesn't know how to mind its own fucking business. And that's why for the longest time, America has been losing the world's respect. Because America don't know how to leave the fucking world alone. Okay? But these crackers are also hiring, okay? America and France, they are hiring other black people to do their bidding. And they are using them as their mouthpiece. General Michael Langley, I don't know if I said his name right, of the United States Marine Corps, he has called and spoke out against Ibrahim Traore, calling him a dictator, a terrorist, and a tyrant, when that's none of the sort. Ibrahim Traore, okay, the reason why he's pushing back against France and all these Western nations, this is part of his ambition to lift his country out of exploitation, poverty, and oppression. Okay? Ibrahim Traore right now is trying to bring free education to his people, free healthcare, free hospitals, free housing, free food production, and more advanced infrastructure and innovations. Okay? That would greatly surpass that of America, Europe, and even China. Okay? So the West is not happy about that. Why is it that third world countries, other, third world countries that used to be impoverished, such as Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, and even China. Okay, when you look at the history of China, China used to be an impoverished country. Now, they are the world's most superpower that it is now. Why is it that these Asian countries that used to be impoverished, and as well as the Latin American countries as well, such as Brazil and Mexico, okay? Why is it that all these countries that used to be impoverished, all of these countries that are, not black, why is it that they are allowed to be lifted out of poverty and systematic oppression and corruption, but when it's black people doing it, okay, from whatever part of the world they're from, but particularly from Africa, why is it when black people try to do whatever it takes to, get themselves out of inequality, poverty, and oppression and corruption, the world, especially the fucking cracker, has a problem with it? Because this is all rooted in jealousy. The fucking cracker is naturally jealous of the black man and the black woman. Why? Because the black man, the black woman, and their children are the chosen ones of the Most High. They are the rightful rulers of this planet. They are the rightful rulers of life. They are the rightful rulers of nature. They are the rightful rulers of the universe. And they are the rightful rulers of civilization. And the cracker, with his and hers naturally jealous and evil mind, hates that for black people. Okay? That's why slavery happened. Jim Crow. And all these other, atrocities committed towards melanated people. Look what happened to other African leaders like Malcolm X. He got killed. Patrice Lumumba and Kwame Nkrumah. Oh yes, and Thomas Sankara. I almost forgot about him. Thomas Sankara. They all ended up being taken out because they were trying to do right by their people. And even non-blacks, such as Gaddafi and Fidel Castro. And what's the Chavez Guevara? I don't know if I said his name right. I believe he's revolutionary from Cuba, if I'm not mistaken. Che Guevara. I hope I said his name right. Someone please comment on the comment section if I said his name right. Please correct me. But yeah, so many leaders throughout history from other parts of the world have been killed and taken out just for doing right by their people and lifting their people out of oppression and systematic corruption. And that is what they're trying to do with Ibrahim Traore right now. His life is on the line. He has survived so far 18 assassination attempts. That is far too many. 18 he survived 18 assassination attempts. What has been going on between those 18 assassination attempts? That is just a miracle. So I hope that, Ibrahim Traore remains well protected. Also, here's another thing. Why is it that America is always so involved with what other people, what other leaders in the world get going on when they're only trying to help their own people? Why is it America is so focused on stuff like that, but yet its people are also suffering? America, really and truly, is not the land of the free. It is not. And there's also no such thing as the American dream. That is all a facade to put, that America, this evil nation, uses to try to lift itself up and put itself on top of other people, other nations. The American people are also suffering, okay? Look what's happening right now. Rising inflation. All these tariffs that, Trump keeps enforcing and enacting. That's raising, grocery store prices and just making everything in America unaffordable. Every day on YouTube, video after video after video after video after video, I see fellow Americans complaining about how they're struggling to make ends meet. They don't get paid enough. A lot of them do not get paid enough for what they do. And they're having to pay for all these utilities and bills that whenever it's payday, their money runs out so quick. Because of all the needs, they're focusing on that is so expensive and unaffordable. And on top of that, all these bills, mortgages, and so on that they have to pay. The American people are becoming broke. And it is also becoming so bad that a lot of Americans right now can't even afford to live a decent lifestyle or go on vacation. They have to cut back from that now because of what's going on in America right now. So why doesn't America try to help its own people that are also suffering in this country, in this land that is the so-called land of the free, land of the great? America was never great and never will be. Why? You know why America will never ever help its own people? And why America is so involved in trying to destroy other countries and destabilize other countries? Because it's wicked to the fucking core. Look who we have in office right now. A fucking convicted felon. Indicted of all 34 counts. For him to be allowed to run an office like that just, speaks so much volume about this fucking nation. And all these MAGA people want to talk about how America is great, and it will become even more great now that Trump is in office. No. Trump, just like his predecessor Biden, is bringing this country to hell. But that's also judgment on America too by the Most High. America is falling. America is a dying empire. America is so focused on bombing innocent men, women, and children from other countries, especially with what's happening right now in Palestine. But can't help its own people that are suffering. Throughout history, refugees from other countries that were escaping oppression and genocide that flocked to America for refuge and help, they've been turned away. Look what happened back in the year 1938. I believe it was Theodore Roosevelt. There's two Roosevelts. So someone please correct me again if I'm wrong on this. I believe it was Franklin or Theodore Roosevelt. The one of the presidents of the United States that passed away actually at the end of World War II in 1945. But in the year 1938, when cargoes of Jews were coming over here from Europe trying to escape from Nazi Germany, what happened to them? They were turned away by Theodore Roosevelt and the American government, saying that they need to go back to where they come from and don't want to be, because America is a fucking coward, really and truly, right? The reason why they didn't want to accept those Jewish refugees that were trying to come over here to escape from Nazism, from Nazi Germany, is because they didn't want Hitler to get on their ass for helping the European Jews. And what happened to those Jews that were turned away? They ended up becoming one of the many victims of the Holocaust. That's so sad and unfortunate. But does America feel bad about its transgressions? Bombing, destroying, destabilizing countries, killing innocent men, women, and children overseas, not helping its own people, and also, turning away those that need and seek help respectfully. No, because this is a wicked ass country. This is a wicked ass nation. I watched a video one time where Minister Louis Farrakhan was being interviewed by a fucking cracker. And I believe this was in the sometime during the 70s or 80s. It was a really old interview. And in that interview, Minister Louis Farrakhan stated that, America is so quick to call other countries shithole countries and corrupt, like Nigeria. But he said, no other nation in the world is corrupt as much as America is. And that's a fact. That's a fact. And that's why America is crumbling right now and falling. Because the Most High sees through America's heart. And as America and all these, Western nations fall and collapse, as it serves them right, African people, and not just African people, black people from all over the world, from Jamaica, Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Bahamas, Australia, Europe, Asia, Oceania. It's y'all's time to rule. You are the chosen ones of the Most High. And the Most High has seized through y'all's righteous hearts that I've been suffering in this evil matrix for centuries. I think He has indeed, like what many other people have said on social media, I think the Most High has indeed answered y'all's prayers and has granted y'all black revolutionaries like Ibrahim Traore. So, it's y'all's time now to rise and be the kings and queens that you're meant to be. You need to fight alongside Ibrahim Traore. Don't just be followers. Be a leader, not a fucking follower. Fight alongside him. And help him help yourselves. Because this is some glorious, magnificent times we're living in. The evil kingdom and dominion of the cracker is falling. And it is time for melanated people, as we're seeing right now, as we're seeing prophecy unfold. It is time for melanated people to rise and become strong and powerful again, and not let any more foreign powers and influences fuck y'all up again. So I hope that Ibrahim Traore continues to be continues to remain well protected. Somebody told me that there are actually civilians in Burkina Faso that are taking the time of their day to protect him. They would take turns at night being watchful of him and making sure no one comes to harm and threaten him. I hope Ibrahim Traore remains well protected, because he's the answer to not just Africa, but black people's problems. And we cannot afford to have him, taken out. Just like what happened to Malcolm X, Muammar Gaddafi, Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, and Kwame Nkrumah. It is black people's time to rise. And I also hope that Julius Malema also remains well protected, because he is another revolutionary hailing from South Africa that's in the fight with Ibrahim Traore. And to Julius Malema, it is time to evict the fucking crackers that are the predominant inhabitants in South Africa right now. It is time to evict them out of South Africa. It is time for Namibia to evict the fucking Germans that still live there. It is time for Angola, Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau, Sao Tome and Principe to evict the Portuguese and the Spaniards that still live there. And it is time for the rest of these African nations that have been colonized by France, and is still colonized by France to this day, to evict the fucking French out of their fucking lands and countries. And keep the United Snakes of America out. Push back against the United Snakes of America. Because America is also using Negroes like Michael Langley to sabotage Abraham Traore and African people, fellow black Africans. As Malcolm X warned, they will use your own to kill your own. So y'all gotta be mindful with the sellouts and the Sambos in y'all's lands and countries. And before I conclude the video, I also hope that Ibrahim Traore realizes that Russia and China are no friends of Africa as well. Really and truly. They are just like the Europeans. Russia and China are in Africa right now just to exploit off the resources for their own selfish, evil interest and gains. They don't give a damn about African people. Look what the Chinese have been doing in Africa right now, mistreating and abusing African people. Establishing factories where they're slaving away African people, and they don't get paid good. They get low wages. You know, making shoes for no good for Donald Trump and Ivanka Trump. And these are Chinese factories now we're talking. And they're using African people to invent stuff for some of the world's most corrupt people, most corrupt beings, most corrupt demons. You know, and the Chinese are also, of course, doing so much environmental and ecological harm in Africa right now, driving elephants and rhinos to extinction because of their horn and ivory. African people can no longer afford to sit well with that. Because I see some of y'all on YouTube, you know, saying that Russia and China are y'all's best friends. Y'all have such good friendships and relationships with them. They don't give a fuck about y'all. Black people have no allies. African people have no allies. Black people have no one but themselves. So it is time for black people, like I've been saying, to do right for themselves. And anybody that is so heinous and disrespectful towards African people, kick them out of your land, okay? Kick them out of y'all's lands. They don't deserve to be there. They shouldn't be there. Don't just kick the Europeans out. Like I said, kick the fucking Russians out, the Chinese, and the Japs. And the Koreans. Kick them all out. They're just there to exploit off of y'all. And destroy Africa. There's no righteous DNA that runs through the bone and bloods of these beings. They don't have a righteous, good, holy bone in them. So kick them all out. And along with that, I also hope that all of Africa awakens from this, you know, from all of the religious nonsense and teachings that have plagued Africa, such as Christianity and Islam. It's high time also for African people to wake up from that shit. Whatever educational reform Ibrahim Traore plans to bring about in Burkina Faso and ultimately throughout Africa, I hope African people for once will learn true African history for once. Not just when they were in slavery, not when they were, you know, all this stereotypical nonsense and misconceptions about Africans living in mud huts, you know, living primeval lifestyles, sleeping with lions and running away from lions and hunting lions. No. Africa has a far rich and glorious history than that. Don't forget, African people ruled ancient Kemet. And don't let these fucking crackers gaslight you and make fun of y'all. And make y'all feel ashamed, accusing y'all of blackwashing history. No, that's y'all's history. Y'all have ruled many great kingdoms all over Africa. particularly and especially, like I said, ancient Kemet. That's y'all's history, not the white man's history. They're the ones who whitewash y'all's history because they're jealous of y'all. They're jealous. And it's that same jealousy that still persists today, that's been going on for centuries and centuries. That's why they're planning to take out Ibrahim Traore, because they don't want to see African people, black people, rising and being great and being prosperous. They want y'all dumbed down. So it's high time for African people, like I said, to continue waking up and rising. Because right now, a large percentage of Africa's population is the youth. 25 ages 25 and under. Young, strong, and powerful people. And if y'all can unite, you can take out your oppressors who are dying out, who have such low birth rates, and have no one and nothing but a bunch of oldies, old people amongst them. So don't let these bastards continue to rule over you. Take them out. To Ibrahim Traore and all African people, you have my deepest support. As always, I would love to see you all rise and become prosperous in the near future. Y'all are gonna make it. I know y'all will. Stay strong, African people. You got this.